Somebody once made you feel like your need for attention was a character flaw. Maybe they said it out loud. You're too needy. You want too much. You're exhausting. Or maybe nobody ever said it. They just went quiet every time you reached for them, until you learned to stop reaching. And now you live with this strange ache. You are loved, technically. Chosen, technically. But you feel invisible to the very person who is supposed to see you. And you have spent years apologizing for that ache, treating it like a defect you should have outgrown by now. Today, we stop apologizing. Stay with me, because here is what nobody told you. Feeling romantically ignored is not proof that you demand too much. It is proof that one of the deepest human needs, the need to be seen, is going unmet. You are not asking for too much. You are asking someone who is not tuned in. And once you understand the psychology behind that, you might stop blaming the signal and start looking at the receiver. Let me show you what this actually looks like, because it almost never looks dramatic. You tell them about your day, and they nod at their phone. You send a message with a small piece of your heart folded inside it, and you get back a thumbs up. You reach for their hand in the car, and they let you hold it the way you hold a railing. Present, but not there. Nothing here would count as cruelty. There is no shouting, no betrayal, nothing you could point to in an argument without sounding petty. That is what makes it so disorienting. You start collecting evidence and then dismissing your own case. It's nothing, you tell yourself. I'm being dramatic. But your body disagrees. There is a specific kind of loneliness that only exists next to another person. Sitting on the same couch, sleeping in the same bed, and feeling like you are broadcasting on a frequency they never tuned to. You keep transmitting your day, your worries, your small joys, and the dial on their end never moves. So you do what sensitive people always do. You turn your own volume down. You ask for less. You edit the text before sending it, cutting out the parts that sound like need. You become low maintenance, easy, fine. Always fine. And the ache does not shrink. It just goes underground. It shows up as a heaviness on Sunday evenings. It shows up when you watch another couple across a restaurant and realize the man is actually listening to her, leaning in, and something in your stomach drops. It shows up when a stranger remembers a small detail you mentioned once, and you almost cry because someone finally caught what you threw. Sound familiar? But here is where it gets interesting, because the mechanism behind this ache is not vague at all. Psychologists can actually see it. The researcher John Gottman spent decades watching couples in his lab, and he noticed that relationships are not built in the big moments. They are built in tiny ones he called bids for connect. A bid is any small attempt to get your partner's attention. Look at this bird outside. I had a weird dream. A sigh from the kitchen. Each one is a little knock on the door that quietly asks, "Are you there?" And Gottman found something striking. The couples who stayed together turned toward those small bids the vast majority of the time. The couples who ended up divorcing turned toward them only about a third of the time. Not because of affairs. Not because of screaming matches. Because of thousands of tiny moments where one person knocked and nobody answered. Now read your own relationship through that lens. Every story they scrolled through. Every observation that landed in silence. Every time you reached out and touched static. Those were not small things, they were bids. And a bid that gets ignored does not just disappear, it gets recorded. Your mind keeps the ledger even when you refuse to. That is why you can feel starving in a relationship that looks full from the outside. There are photos, there are anniversaries. There is a person who technically comes home every night, and still, some quiet accountant inside you knows the real balance. You are not overreacting to one ignored message. You are responding to the weight of 1,000 of them, stacked so slowly that nobody, including you, noticed the pile growing. That reframe alone changes a lot. But we have to go deeper, because the intensity of this ache has a root, and the root is older than any relationship you have ever had. In 1975, a developmental psychologist named Edward Tronick ran what became known as the still face experiment. A mother plays with her baby, fully engaged, responding to every coo and glance. Then, on cue, she turns away and comes back with a completely blank face. She is still there, still looking, just not responding. What happens next is hard to watch. The baby smiles at her. Nothing. The baby points, reaches, shrieks, tries every trick it knows to get her back. Nothing. Within a couple of minutes, the baby crumples. It turns away, loses control of its posture, and starts to cry. Here is the part that matters for you. The mother never left. She never yelled. She simply stopped responding. And to the baby's nervous system, that was an emergency. We do not grow out of that wiring. We just get better at hiding it. Attachment researchers, going back to John Bowlby, have shown that being unseen by the person we are bonded to registers as a threat at any age. When your partner goes emotionally still, some ancient part of you responds exactly like that baby. It escalates. It reaches harder. It double texts. It picks a fight at midnight just to get a reaction, because even anger is proof that somebody is receiving you. Attachment researchers have a name for this: protest behavior. It is not manipulation, and it is not madness. It is the nervous system protesting a broken connection, the way a baby protests a still face. And here is the cruel twist. The more you protest, the more they withdraw. The more they withdraw, the harder you protest. Round and round, each of you certain the other one started it. And this is the exact behavior that gets you labeled needy. Do you see the trap? The wound is created by their silence, but the diagnosis lands on your reaction to it. They go quiet, you reach louder, and somehow you become the problem. You are not the problem. You are the alarm. And an alarm is not defective for going off when something is actually burning. Now, before this turns into a story where you are perfect and they are a villain, let me be honest with you, because the truth has more texture than that. Sometimes the person ignoring you is checked out, or careless, or was never taught how to attune to anyone. And sometimes they are simply built differently, quieter in how they love, while your old wounds turn every silence into a siren. Sometimes it is both at once. Two people, transmitting on different frequencies, each convinced the other one owns the problem. That is why the psychologist Sue Johnson, who developed emotionally focused therapy, argued that underneath almost every couple's fight there is really only one question. Are you there for me? Not, are you right? Not, who started it? Just, when I reach for you, will I find you? She called the answer to that question emotional attunement. Tuning into what your partner feels and letting them see that it landed. Notice the word. Attunement. Tuning. Like a radio finding a station. It does not require grand gestures or poetry. It requires someone turning the dial until they find you and then staying there long enough for you to feel found. That is the thing you have been starving for. Not constant attention. Not worship. Attunement. There is a difference between wanting someone glued to you all day and wanting someone who actually receives you when you transmit. The first one is anxiety talking, and it deserves gentleness and healing. The second one is not a disorder. It is the baseline of love. You know that feeling when someone really gets what you just said and something in your chest unclenches? That is not you being dependent. That is a nervous system doing what it was built to do. So let us finally say the thing out loud. There is nothing wrong with you for wanting to be seen. You are not too needy. You are not too much. You are a human being wired, from your very first days, to reach for connection and to hurt when the reach comes back empty. That wiring is not a flaw in you. It is the oldest and most honest part of you. For years you treated the ache as the problem. You muted yourself, edited yourself, learned to need in secret. You got so good at asking for nothing that people started praising you for it. So independent, so easygoing. And every compliment was another brick in the wall between you and the one thing you actually wanted. But the ache was never the malfunction. The ache was information. It was telling you that your bids were going unanswered, that you were broadcasting into silence, that the person holding the radio never turned the dial to your station. Hear the difference. A person who is too demanding wants more than anyone could give. You wanted something astonishingly small, to be noticed when you speak, to be reached for without asking, to feel someone tune in. If that is too much, then every baby in the still face experiment was too much. And they were not. They were just alive. Maybe the person you love can learn to turn towards you if you show them this, if they are willing. People can learn attunement. Couples do it every day. And maybe they cannot or will not. And that answer is painful, but it is still an answer. Either way, the frequency you broadcast on is not the problem. Someone out there tunes to it naturally, and the first time it happens, you will realize how quiet the static was all along, and how loud you never had to be. If this hit something in you, tell me in the comments which moment felt like it was written about you. The thumbs up text, the hand held like a railing, the midnight fight that was really a reach. I read every single one, and around here, no bid goes unanswered. You were never asking for too much. You were just knocking on a door with nobody behind it. Keep knocking. The right person answers before you finish. Subscribe to keep decoding yourself, and I'll see you in the next